Yeah, hello and welcome to this small presentation on GST and foreign trade policy. So here in this presentation, I'm going to cover basically about the effect on the duty exemption schemes that are there in the foreign trade policy. I'm going to cover a bit about the EPCG scheme and the effect that GST might have on that particular scheme, and I'm also going to cover the effect of GST on the export promotion schemes. So my assumptions are listed down here. I assume that people are aware of the foreign trade policy. People who are going through this presentation are also aware of the outline of the GST and the basic export and import procedures. In the current duty structure, the duties that are levied at the border, they consist of the basic customs duty, plus you have the additional duty of customs, which is commonly also called the CVD, the countervailing duty, which is equal to the central excise duty component as of now. You have the special additional duty, which is usually equal to 4%, and then you have the protective or punitive duties, basically the safeguard duties or the anti-dumping duties that may or may not be leviable on the product. Obviously, you have various cesses like educational cesses, higher education cesses, and so on. Under the proposed GST, the duty structure at the border would be the basic custom duty plus the IGST and the protective or punitive duties. So it will be simplified down from various duties that I mentioned earlier to these three basically. So this in a way is, you may call it a kind of simplification there at the borders. Now coming straight to the topic, the effect of GST on the duty exemption schemes. So those who are not very aware, they can just a small recap for them. Duty exemption schemes are covered in Chapter 4 of the current Foreign Trade Policy 2015 and 20. The two major schemes under this chapter are the Advance Authorization Scheme and the Post-Export Duty-Free Import Authorization Scheme. So we will cover the effect of GST on Advance Authorization Scheme in this presentation. I will not be touching about the post-duty schemes such as DFI and all here. So what is Advance Authorization Scheme? So in simple terms, if you ask me, the Advance Authorization Scheme aims to ab initio exempt the import duties on raw material or inputs that are incorporated in the finished products. So what you have here is a small video that we have made, and we have hosted it on the YouTube channel. So you can go to this link and you can see if you are not aware of what is an Advance Authorization Scheme. So basically all duties at border are exempted under Advance Authorization Scheme of the foreign trade policy, provided the imported raw material or inputs are exported in finished form and the foreign currency is realized after exporting. So these are certain terms and conditions which I will not go into great detail here. So the probable effect of GST on the duty exemption scheme, Advance Authorization Scheme may be scrapped and replaced with a refund mechanism. That is one possibility. Advance Authorization Scheme may be retained but would exempt only the basic customs duty and not the entire duty at the border. See, the Advance Authorization Scheme that as it exists today exempts all the duties, including any anti-dumping duty that might be leviable on a product, but it might not be so in future if it is tweaked to an extent where only BCD is exempted. That is one possibility. And you have one more possibility where duty, the entire exemption scheme is retained, and because it is not very compatible with, let us say, it might break the value chain as it is said. So one might have to come up with ideas like e-wallet or advance credit or duty deferment method and so on, so that you do the ledger balancing and not collect the duties at the border. So the concept of ab initio exemption may be retained that way. So these are the three possibilities that arise when we are moving from the current ab initio exemption schemes such as the Advance Authorization Scheme towards GST. Now what we see here is, or what I hear is, the Advance Authorization Scheme may be scrapped altogether. Now, or maybe the B might be retained, that whereas the Advance Authorization Scheme may continue with only the exemption of BCD. So that is where the needle is pointing to. What exactly is the problem? Why are we saying that Advance Authorization Scheme is difficult to be integrated there? So if you recall back, you will recall that under GST regime we have the basic custom duty plus IGST. I'll leave out all the punitive duties away. So the IGST, if you see the constitutional amendment that we have got, Article 269A, if you go to the explanation 1, it reads, for the purpose of this clause, supply of goods or of services or both in the course of import into the territory of India shall be deemed to be supply of goods or of services or both in the course of interstate trade or commerce. So basically what it says is, when we import, it shall be treated as an interstate supply for the purpose of duty collection. Now, what happens here is, in case you want to exempt IGST also, the permission of all the states and the center is required there. So that's too much of ask all the states to come on board and say that for the good of the nation, let us exempt this IGST also, though not undoable, because there are like examples where in the world people have done it, let us say the duty deferment scheme of Canada and so on, but it's still difficult. So as of now, we are left with two choices, that is either A or B, because C looks difficult in the light of Article 269 1A explanation 1. So we are left with A and B here. Is it bad if it is scrapped? So if you ask me that question, yes, if the refund is paid with a lag. Nobody wants refund to come late. I mean, if you see today, the situation is really bad. The refunds don't come on time in most of the states also. The state taxes that are collected for exported products, so they come with a lag there. And there is fear of tying up of working capital for exports, and the costs would go up consequently. And you have the product competitiveness that might go down. So, I mean, these are the reasons. So it's not all that bad too. If you look at it, drawback, the duties or the taxes that you suffer on the imports that goes into the export product, which gets exported further on. So the drawback would continue to be available. That announcement has recently been made very clearly. Exports are in principle zero rated. That is, any domestic taxes and duties that you suffer, I mean, they will be zero rated. So you don't actually pay. It's no brainer, because for the simple reason that the taxes collected, it goes on valuation basis from state to stage. In the end, if the consumption is not happening in India under GST, because it's a consumption based taxation, that will obviously be zero rated there, and refund route would be available for taxes suffered on imported inputs. So you have it here. What's the effect on EPCG scheme? Okay, what is EPCG scheme? EPCG scheme is a popular technology upgradation scheme that is being used. What happens here is, you import a capital good without payment of any duty ab initio, and in lieu of that import, you are bound to export a certain amount of sum, that is 6 times the duty set value, in the next coming 6 years and so on. So if you want to know more about the scheme, here is the link on the YouTube channel. So there is a proposal to scrap this scheme altogether under GST regime, under the assumption that it is against Make in India initiative. So you don't want the foreign machines to come into India without payment of duty, because it is hurting the domestic capital goods industry. Now, if I get into that debate, it might be a separate presentation altogether. But assuming that may or may not be true, but what I hear is EPCG scheme will altogether be scrapped. Effect on export promotion schemes. So currently there are two popular export promotion schemes. They are covered in the chapter 3 of the Foreign Trade Policy 2015 and 20. So you have the merchandise export incentive scheme, and you have the services export incentive scheme. So to know more about these schemes, you may refer to the link that is given here. And the effect on export promotion schemes, they may be retained, because it's a scheme that is being run by a separate Ministry of Commerce. And they may not be axed now. I mean, it's a matter of conjuncture and question as to which department will implement it, and so on and so forth. Right now, DGFT is implementing these schemes. The use of the scrip that is issued under these incentive schemes, or so-called incentive schemes, they may be limited to exempting basic customs duty alone. But nevertheless, the use will be used. They are basically transferable scrips, so they are near cash, near money. So that would be the effect of GST and on the leading schemes of the foreign trade policy. That's what I feel as of now. So any questions or suggestions if you have, you may leave a comment below down here in the YouTube channel. Or anyway, I shall update the video during July or August 2017 once the picture is fully clear. Meanwhile, there is a review of foreign trade policy, midterm review at 2.5 years. That's going to happen shortly. So that might also come up with some new ideas. So I'll keep you posted on these things. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching very much.